Low-quality fans of a high-quality Bruins franchise. We fired our coach. Jim Montgomery has been relieved of his coaching duties. Joe Sacco will take over. Now, I'm not going to get much into Joe Sacco's abilities here because I don't think it actually changes much. We might have a dead cat bounce from the coach firing and see if they kind of wake up a little bit for the players. But I don't really see Joe Sacco stepping in and all of a sudden being able to fix major issues with this team, because the team has appeared to quit over and over again this season. But something's really bothering me about this. There's nothing black and white about this situation. It's a very gray area. Just like the entire history of the world. Okay. No, not really. Nazis are bad. Like, that's a black and white that we absolutely, like, Nazis are bad. So there are some things that are black and white, but this is a gray area. I should preface this whole video with the fact that I was off today, and me and a buddy thought the best way to spend the day was to split a bottle of Jameson and play Chell, which is what we did. So I might be a little squirrelier than usual, but that's okay, because we're all human and we're all having a good time. And we're also recording the Short Shift podcast tonight for those of you who listen. For those of you who don't, you probably should. We have a good time. One man once said the podcast would be a lot more fun if you didn't all act like 10-year-olds discovering your dick for the first time. So I think that's as big a compliment as I could ever think for the show. But Jim Montgomery, something that's really bothering me about the situation. Flip-floppers. So a lot of people who are very critical of Jim through early in the season, myself included. And then they decided that, well, this is an abhorrent asset management, and it's Sweeney and Neely who are the problem. The reason I refer to this as not black and white is because it's all of them. All of them are the problem. All of them. All of them. And I think that is pretty easily explainable. I mean, I'm shocked by how many people are just crushing Sweeney right now, rather than going, yes, this had to happen, plus Sweeney should be fired, right? I've been a Sweeney defender for a very long time. And up till about 7 or 8 months ago, I had no reason not to be. I thought he was consistently bringing in talent. I thought the team was extremely competitive. And I thought that we had a good chance to win the cup most years that he was in the driver's seat of the team. Many of you will disagree with me. That's totally fine. I understand that. We all have our own opinions on this. But I was a Sweeney defender. This offseason was the worst of his career as a Boston Bruin general manager, and will likely end his tenure by the end of the season with this team unless it bounces back in a way that does not seem very possible for the roster that he constructed. He constructed a roster that destroyed his coach, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend like a head coach should be able to redevelop their entire scheme for a new roster when the offseason changed it so dramatically. Montgomery was brought in because he taught a fast and skilled style of hockey. Sweeney built a team that was slow and heavy. Didn't mix. So those of you who are very critical of Sweeney, you're not wrong. I just find it very interesting how many people are of the opinion that it is only Sweeney, that Montgomery has nothing to do with this. So let's break this down a little bit. The team is 8-9-3 at this point, which is not a terrible record, but over the last 5 weeks, the Boston Bruins ranked dead last in goals for and dead last on the power play in the league. They rank in the bottom 5 in their penalty kill and the bottom 5 in goals allowed per game in the league. That is awful. That's really bad, obviously. The Boston Bruins have a lot of holes on their roster. And maybe you'll disagree with this, but let's walk through this a little bit. The Boston Bruins are missing a top-line left wing and a top-line center. They have a top-line franchise right winger in David Pastrnak. I know there's mixed opinions about all of our star players, but in my opinion, he truly is worth the money. David Pastrnak is widely considered one of the best players in the league by the league, which is who I'm going to trust. Players refer to him as unbelievable. And guess what? They're right. We have a second line left wing in Brad Marchand. We have 3 centers who are capable of second line roles, although some more than others, in Elias Lindholm, Pavel Zacha, and Charlie Coyle. We are missing a second right wing. What that 3 list does for the center position is Zacha is versatile enough to fill in one of the top 6 winger roles or top 6 center roles. Elias Lindholm should be in the middle 6, probably second line center, and then Charlie Coyle should be the third line center. The third line options are plentiful on this team for a competitive third line, and the fourth line has flat out been good this season, so I'm not really worried about that. I think our bottom 6, as far as the roster is constructed, we have a real bottom 6. We have a second line center. We have a second line left wing. We have a top line right wing that is a franchise pillar. We are missing 3 positions in the top 6, although we can fill in one of those wing spots with Pavel Zacha. That should all make sense. That should all... I don't think that's too debatable there. Defensively, we are missing a first pair left defenseman. Charlie McAvoy has not had a great season so far, but he is widely considered a franchise right defenseman, and I agree with that. He has not looked good so far this year. Hampus Lindholm and Brandon Carlo make up a very, very good second pair. That is not very debatable either, in my opinion. I think that is very clear. You have one of the league's best defensive defensemen who has not played like it so far this year, and one of the league's better offensive defensemen in Hampus Lindholm, who looked great before the injury. And then I would also argue that our third pair of Wotherspoon, Andrew Peeke, has actually been pretty solid and does not worry me that much. Zadorov and Lohrei don't really come into account for me that much because I think Zadorov's been an absolute disaster. And I think Mason Lohrei has taken a huge step back and is really struggling right now. So there's some issues there. Goaltending-wise, I think Korpisalo has been perfectly fine as a backup, which was surprising to me. I'll admit my wrongness there any day of the week. And then Jeremy Swayman has not looked good, but I do believe that he is still a franchise goaltender, and I believe that will turn around. He has enough games played in the league that I think he's very good. All that being said, plenty of holes on this roster. But no matter how you shake this roster out, do you really look at this roster and go, they are bottom 5 in the league offensively? Bottom 5 offensively through the 12 forwards and their 6 defensemen. Sorry, not bottom 5. Dead last. You think we're dead last? You look around the rosters around the league and you think this team should be dead last? I have a hard time with that. This team certainly shouldn't be bottom 5 defensively either. That seems like a stretch. So as much as you want to blame Sweeney, which again, we're going to get there in a second, Jim Montgomery has a team that doesn't fit his style and walks into a season with that. Makes very, very well documented, insane lineup changes constantly. Just constantly. Is pushing players in and out of positions where it doesn't make sense for them to be, but even when they're in them, gives them no time to gain any sort of chemistry or attraction. They're frequently blended together, and they are struggling over and over again. Through 20 games, this team has not performed well. If our record reflected how the team has actually performed, we would not be 8-9-3. We would be 4-14-2. I mean, it's been that bad, and I think a lot of you who have watched the games will agree with that we don't even deserve to be where we're at right now. Jim Montgomery is part of that. Is it fair that he gets fired? Is he a bad coach? Not really. It's not fair. And he's definitely not a bad coach. He's coaching a team that doesn't fit his style, which means he's part of the reason the team looks so bad. Yes, Sweeney built the team in a way that didn't fit the coach. That's absolutely on Sweeney. Sweeney should not have a job at the end of this year based on the last 8 months, not on the tenure before that. I've actually been very much a Sweeney defender through a very long time, which I probably already mentioned earlier in this video, but Sweeney hasn't been the issue for me for a long time. I thought he brought in competitive players. I thought the team was competitive under him, and they had opportunity, and they came up short frequently. I get that. But Jim Montgomery was given this team that he had to make the best situation possible with. He's unable to do that with this roster, which means you don't hold on to him. That's just the nature of the beast. This team is performing right now like they are a lottery team. This roster is not a lottery roster. That's where the disconnect seems to be for me, is that you have people who are talking about Sweeney's building of a team and how Sweeney screwed him over. Yes, that's correct to a degree. But the other side of that is that even if he did, and this team is not very good, they are not bottom 5 in the league bad. And that is what Montgomery is running right now. A team that frequently gives up during games, that spends huge stretches getting thoroughly outplayed by bottom feeder teams. I mean, that's what we're getting right now. You cannot deny that at all. Jim Montgomery had to go. Is it his own fault he has to go? No, not really. But he is involved in a 20-game stretch where the team looks way worse than it should under his leadership. That's my point here, is that even though the team should have been built in a different direction, the coach right now is leading a team that is underperforming for what they should be doing. Sweeney and Neely have built a team that is very clearly not good enough. And they fell into, if you watch the last video, huge traps that were very obvious for most of us going into the season who religiously follow the sport. I don't think they survive a team missing the playoffs this year. I think Sweeney and Neely are relieved of duties at the end of the year if this team continues to look this bad. I don't know if Sacco can improve this team. It doesn't make sense to me that he would be able to, but whatever. It's not, we'll figure that out. But if you're 20 games into the season, your option for not throwing away a year is to fire the coach whose style doesn't mix with the team you built. Yes, this is Sweeney's fault. Montgomery has played a role in the underperforming of this team. Montgomery has also torpedoed this team in the playoffs 2 years in a row. That's harsh. That's very harsh. But that Panthers team we lost to 2 years ago, which was a great Panthers team that went to a cup final and then won the cup in the following year, his mismanagement of that first round series was brutal. I mean, I don't understand the amount of people that give him a pass for that. He allowed players to play far longer than they should have. Something that we talked about in the regular season of like, why are we starting our starters every game? Why are we doing this? We have locked in a playoff position, but we're still pushing. And it led to a playoff series in the first round where our top 2 centers are injured. Our Norris finalist defenseman is injured. Our number 1 goaltender, who they refused to move off of until game 7, was injured, along with a few other in there. Crazy mismanagement, thoroughly outcoached in that series. And then the following year, he had them overperforming, going against a Leafs team in the first round, which personally, roster to roster, you can go back and watch these videos, I didn't believe that we should beat. But Matthews was out and Nylander was out, and they swapped games that they could actually come in. But we rushed out to a 3-1 lead in the series, and then collapsed again and barely squeaked out a Game 7 win. I mean, Montgomery has not had a good playoff record at all for this team. That's very clear to me. And he hasn't managed the team well in those situations. He hasn't managed the team well through adversity. Montgomery's part of this. He understands the business. This isn't completely fair to him. And I understand that. And I wish him the very best. And if anyone makes a fucking alcoholic joke, I swear to God, the amount of stuff I'm seeing about that it's disappointing. Intensely disappointing. I shouldn't even have started this video with the fact that I've been drinking today, honestly, because people are going to link that in a ridiculous fashion. The man deserves respect. The man's a good NHL coach, and he deserves to be in the league. He is currently coaching a team that is not built for his style, and it is underperforming under him. He seems to have lost the room on top of that because the team actively quits under him. It is on the players, 100%. It is on Sweeney, 100%. It is on Neely, 100%. It's also on Montgomery. I guess 25% for each then. I shouldn't have said 100% for each. I feel like that's a very obvious thing, is that it is on every party here. And the only real move you can make, change the coach. See if it wakes the players up. See if the coach's new style might benefit the team a little bit more. See if it saves my job coming from Sweeney. It's just the nature of the business. And please remember, those of you who sit there and go, well, firing Monty is a huge mistake. You're gonna wish you had him. This team will not be ready to play Montgomery's style in a long time. They have too much money locked into contracts of people who don't match his style for a long time. I'm not overly worried about that. I'm not. Coaches come and go. It is sad. I want the best for Jim Montgomery. He is relieved. I genuinely think there's a piece of him that goes, oh, thank God. I'm done with this. It doesn't fit his schematic. And I think it's time for the team to move on. It's a bummer. Genuinely. But it is what it is. It makes sense in the grand scheme of the league. And don't worry, Sweeney's going to get his too. This was an awful offseason for him where he force-fed us this idea about building on speed when he built on size. And he laughed it off when asked about it. About, oh no, I wanted to focus on skating ability. No, you built the team to be big, and now they're slow and overmatched no matter who they play. You didn't build the team off skating ability. You didn't build the team off speed and skill. But that's what you tried to feed us, which we again called out at the time, and then Jim Montgomery had to deal with your mess. Sweeney's going to get his. Don't you worry about it. But this was the move to make. It was a little bit earlier than I expected. It just makes sense, though. Is it fair to Monty? No, it's not. But he is technically part of the problem. Two things can be true about it. He's a good coach. This roster doesn't fit him. And this roster might not fit anybody. We'll see what happens. Good luck to Joe Sacco. We're going to miss Jim. I wish him the best. It's just me rambling for this video. That's the whole video. So I apologize if there's nothing more entertaining about it. But I really do hope he succeeds elsewhere. This team's got a lot of work to do. We'll see what happens. Go Bees. Go Bees! Of course, we have to give a huge thank you to everyone who's supporting this channel, especially the high-quality inspectors, our top-line tier members, Nibbler4377, EKM Productions, Chris and Erica, Jeff with a G, Tommy Braga, The Bugman, Roland22, GD Viperworks, Len Kreutz, Moonlighter TV, Brock Nope, Han Slomo, Coach D, The Atomic Lizard, Bradley Johnson, Aaron Adams, Brett Arney, Pincent, Adam Ella, Big Bad Bruin, and Nick Citrullo. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. You're all studs and studettes. And of course, a huge thank you to the Stallions, our all-star tier members, Levi Catalani, Bagel, Joel, Doots42, Heil E. Coyote, Darren Woodbury, Abraxion, John Kirk, Michael DePaulo, Wolf Warrior, Vinny, Adrian Winter, Tupton Ditashi, Nightmare Eco, Bruin Smash, DeKingery, The Only Newts, A Tasty Snack, Boston Stringler, Dash Riprock, Jacob Pratt, and Jeremy. You are all absolute legends. I appreciate you eternally. And as usual, go Bees!